So now we're going to discuss the outline of bleeding disorder. When a patient comes with bleeding, what to do. Now, what is a bleeding disorder? Before we go for the diagnostic algorithm, we see what is a bleeding disorder. Bleeding on more than one occasion from more than one side is called a bleeding disorder. For example, if a patient has epistaxis, there are repeated episodes of epistaxis, but there is no other bleeding. This may simply because of abnormal area in the nose which is causing epistaxis. So this is not synonymous with the bleeding disorder. This is a local problem in the nose which is resulting. Similarly, the hemorrhoids, they keep on bleeding repeatedly, but that is not a bleeding disorder. So the bleeding disorder is that there is bleeding on more than one occasion from more than one side. So this is a bleeding disorder. Patient may have superficial bleeding or deep bleeding. Superficial bleeding can be in the skin, in the mucous membranes. Mucous membranes can be conjunctiva, the nose, the oral cavity, the GI tract, the urinary tract, the gynecological tract, sometimes the respiratory tract. So patient may be bleeding in the skin or from the mucous membranes. Deep bleeding is usually in the muscles and the joints. Sometimes it can be in the cavities as well. Now, what are the causes of superficial bleeding? There are two types of defects. That number one are platelet disorders. The number two are problems with the collagen or the supporting structure of the capillaries. The supporting structure of the capillaries are actually collagen, which may be defective in multiple diseases like vitamin C deficiency. There may be Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, or there may be corticosteroids or old age. That all result in diminished support to the structure. Amyloidosis is one similar condition. And then you can, the second and the most important is the platelet defects. Platelet defects can be both quantitative or qualitative. Now, what are the defects in the platelets? One is thrombocytopenia. The patient may have low platelets. There may be increased destruction. For example, the platelets are destroyed in the peripheral circulation, as is seen in autoimmune thrombocytopenic purpura, or they may be seen in hypersplenism or various conditions which can damage platelets. For example, DIC can damage platelets. The platelets can be damaged in the prosthetic valves, and then you got decreased production. The platelets are not being produced from the bone marrow. That is, patient has hypoplastic or aplastic anemia, or the bone marrow is replaced by abnormal cells that decrease the production of the platelets. And then you got thrombocythemia. Thrombocythemia means the platelet have abnormal clotting properties. They can be acquired. The most common reason for acquired platelet defects is the antiplatelet drugs, that is the aspirin and clopidogrel type of drugs. And then you can have congenital type of disease which can cause abnormal platelet functions, for example, Glanzmann's purpura. And then you, as I mentioned, collagen defects which can result in formation of purpura or bleeding into the skin. That is vitamin C deficiency, aging, glucocorticoids, amyloid disease, Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. Then how we investigate these bleeding disorders? First, we do a bleeding time. If bleeding time is abnormal, that means the patient has a problem with the platelets. You can do a clot retraction test on the bedside. Take 5 cc of patient's blood and 5 cc for control, and place it on the bedside of the patient, and then after 24 hours see which sample contains more serum. The sample which contains more serum has active platelets because they have caused platelet contraction, and the serum is released from the plasma, and you can separate it. So the platelets, if they are abnormal, there will be less or no clot retraction. This is a bedside test which can tell us whether the platelets are low in number or they are not functioning. This cannot differentiate between the qualitative or quantitative defects, the clot retraction test. And then we can go for the CBC. For example, CBC can tell us the exact number of platelets. We can go for reticulated platelets. Reticulated platelets are immature platelets in the circulation, which if they are present, that means the megakaryocytes in the bone marrow are working and they are producing platelets, and the defect is lying in the peripheral circulation. Then you can go for various platelet functional studies, and if finally not sorted out, we can go for a bone marrow examination to see whether the bone marrow is working or not. And then we got deep bleeding. Deep bleeding can be congenital or it can be acquired. Acquired is because of some drugs, for example, vitamin K antagonists, the different type of heparins, factor 10A inhibitors, then you can see bleeding in DIC, or it can be seen in decompensated liver disease. The congenital type of deep bleeding disorders are seen in both X-linked recessive conditions or in autosomal conditions. X-linked recessive diseases are classically hemophilia A, hemophilia B, and hemophilia C. Then you can have von Willebrand disease, which is autosomal dominant, and then you've got other diseases in which individual factors may be affected. Factor 1, 2, 5, 7, 10, 11, 12, they all may be deficient in producing deep bleeding, so they can be investigated accordingly. Now, what are the investigation? We do a clotting time. If clotting time is abnormal, that means something is causing problem in the clotting mechanism. We can do prothrombin time or partial thromboplastin time. The prothrombin time is abnormal in the problem in the extrinsic pathway, and if there is prolonged partial thromboplastin time, this is problem in the intrinsic pathway. And then individual factors can be assayed and see which factor is deficient. So this is how we can find out what is the problem which is causing deep bleeding. So this is an outline of a patient who presents with bleeding history. So next time we will see the individual diseases which cause these bleeding disorders.